So now we've laid out our phases sort of by the year. And again, you'd want specific dates, but we're going to go with months for this example. So we're going to build our power phase, the one that's coming right before in season, arguably the most important phase of the year. And then we're going to build an example of our stability control phase. That is not how I actually normally build a year-round periodization plan. I actually usually generally start at the beginning and work our way up. But just to give you an example of what the differences might be between the phases, we're going to look at it from the first phase and then backtrack to the last phase. So we have a power-based phase in August where we're going to be running a lot, we're going to be training a lot, we're going to be trying to get fitness and endurance up, but we're also going to be still trying to maintain or develop power in that phase as much as we can. So what are the things we know about the phase? We know they're going to be training 3 days a week because that's what most of our teams do, and in that phase, that's what football will be doing. We supply that number since we can determine the program, but at a different place, there might be different options there. We know it'll be a 3-day-a-week program, though. We know that they're going to be doing a good bit of speed and endurance work outside of this program, but that their strength work should still be power-based. So what everyone always does now is they go, okay, it's a power phase, I've got 3 days a week, my program in this case is Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, and therefore I know I should have my power clean. I'm going to do power clean here, and I'm going to do 5 sets of 3 to get optimal power in this phase. This is the wrong step. The actual exercise itself is the least important thing. Right? It's the last thing you assign. Maybe I shouldn't say it's the least important, but it's the last step. This is almost like you're giving me the answer to a question and then asking the question. Everything you do in life and every program you write, your whole goal should be to ask the question, what is your goal? So what is the goal of the power phase? And generally, strength and conditioning coaches ask the question where the answer is already in the question. The goal of the power phase is to create more power. Okay. So knowing that, we've got to decide, we've got 3 days a week. On those days, we have to go back to our movement patterns. On those days, we have to represent these patterns. Hip, quad, horizontal push, horizontal pull, vertical pull. How many sets are you going to do of power movements in a power phase? Where do you get this answer? Well, this comes from the periodization chart. So if you go to the periodization chart, and remember, sets do not include warm-up sets. When you go to the periodization chart, it'll tell you you're probably looking at somewhere in the range of, let's say, 15 sets. All right? It's probably a little higher than the chart actually allows for, but in this case, we're going to use 15 today. So I have 15 sets on any given day. When I'm in power, I'm on that very specific side of the plan, which means if I have 15 sets, one way I can allocate my sets is to have 2 sets of 7 exercises. Obviously, the math isn't exactly right. I could do 3 sets of 5 exercises, or I could do 5 sets of 3 exercises. Now, there are other variations. But for power, this is the most correct answer. I'm going to have a lot of sets of a few exercises, but the exercises I pick are going to be important here, and I need to make sure I pick the right ones. When I consider my training, again, what I do first on Mondays is the most important thing. Why? Because I have Monday, off day, or maybe speed day. Wednesday, off day. Friday, off day, off day. That's at least the way we design the program. Now, people may implement this differently. They may have to adjust it. But whatever that first day is in your training cycle, you're coming off 2 full days of recovery. You're going to have your best performance on that day. And you're going to have your best performance on your first big exercise of the day. That doesn't mean you don't need warm-up. It doesn't mean you don't need a dynamic warm-up. It doesn't mean you don't need warm-up sets. It doesn't mean you might do stiffness ankle hops or some power skips or some med ball throws. But once all those things are out of the way, it's what do I do first that matters the most. Okay. So now let's take a step back. We've decided that we've got Monday, Wednesday, Friday. What is the most important movement pattern to win games? We said hip. So my first exercise on Monday, and let's assume I'm looking at maybe 4 exercises with 4 sets each in that ballpark, or maybe 3 exercises with 5 sets each. I'm only going to have a few exercises that are going to fit this power phase. So if that's the case, my first thing is going to be hip dominant for sure. On Wednesday, since I'm likely to be hip dominant on Monday, I'm probably going to go back and be hip dominant again on Friday. I'm likely to put quad dominant. Does it have to be that way? No. You might have hip, 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 then followed by quad, quad, quad. You might have hip, quad, then quad again, but that seems unlikely because 2 hips follow this protocol. If I make this one a quad, now I have 2 quads. I've actually changed my sequencing and my order there. So always refer back to your chart. So I've given myself 2 hip movements and 1 quad movement. And let's assume I have 3 exercises for around 5 sets each, maybe even a little bit less. All right. I've got 1 done already. I've only got 2 more slots to fill here. So now I look down the chart. After hip, what's next most important? I might have a quad movement here. I might have a hip movement here. And I might have a quad movement here. Depends on how many total sets I'm trying to get in. So again, if I just flow by the chart, I might have 3 exercises for 5 sets. I'm probably going to go hip, quad, and then an upper body, quad, hip, upper body, hip, quad, upper body. Now, here's where we start to fudge it a little bit. The amount of sets of legs is different than if all the sets were upper body, right? Think of it this way. If you went to the gym and you had to do 7 sets of bench press, 7 sets of rows, would you be more or less sore than if you had to do 7 sets of squats and 7 sets of deadlift? One of those might leave you, nearly catatonic, and the other one's a good challenging workout where you get a good pump. So these sets are much more valuable or much more exhausting than the upper body sets. So I'm probably going to have less stuff overall in through here and possibly more volume here. So this is where, again, I'm taking the rules and I'm learning to use them to the best of my abilities and rationally think through my options. Chances are I'm probably going to go hip quad on Monday because I'm really fresh on Monday. And chances are I might go hip quad on Friday because I have a long time to recover on Friday. I'm probably not going to go quad hip on Wednesday. Why? And the reason is I've got this off day, but this might also be my speed day. This might be a speed day. I might have an endurance day. I might have practice skills, 7s. I might have something going on. So depending on what else is going on in those time frames, I'm probably not going to overload my legs again a 3rd time during the week. If I was only going to overload them 1 day a week, it'd probably be Monday. But if I knew it was Monday speed, Wednesday speed, Friday off, it might actually be Friday. But I'd be the most fatigued on Friday. So for this model, we're going to go with hip, quad, quad, hip, quad. Now, if you look back to here, this appears that this volume of hip will be less than the volume of quad, and therefore I've changed my order, which we said is a no-no. But how many sets I do of each is going to be important here. So I'm probably going to assign this hip 5 sets, and I'm probably going to assign this hip 5 sets. That gives me 10 sets of hip, which means I'm probably only going to have 3 sets here, 3 sets here, and I might have 3 or 4 sets here. It gives me the same total amount of sets if I go 4, 3, 3, 5, 5. Both of those yield 10 sets. But in one example, my hip sets, all 10 of them are high priority, and my quad, on the other example, only 3 or 4 of my sets are high priority. So I'm still prioritizing hip over quad. And this comes back to that huge point at Tufts. This is one of our biggest things. There's like 3 or 4 big things that separate it from everyone else. Sequence. The sequence is crucial. Asking what the goal is in a phase is crucial. They are things that let us look at training in a different way than other places. Sequence in the workout, what I do first, I get the best results in. Think of it this way. You want your deadlift to go up, but every day you go to the gym and you leg press and squat, and then you deadlift. It doesn't make any sense. It's ludicrous. Your deadlift will never go up as much as if you give it first priority. Sequence is absolutely crucial. So this is an opportunity where sequence makes the 10 sets of hip more valuable, more influential on your body than the 10 sets of quad. All right. So we've got Monday, Wednesday, Friday. Hip, quad, quad, hip, quad. 10 sets of each, but priority is still given to the hip here. Does this mean this is the only way to do it? No. There's probably 4 million variations you could come across in here that would be correct, but there's also a lot of variations that would be incorrect. Stepping down from here, I've now used up about 8 sets. And again, I say I have maybe 15 sets I'm playing with here. So that means I can have 2 upper body movements. And if you look, I'm likely going to want to prioritize my pushes. So I'm probably going to have a horizontal push here, a horizontal push here, likely going to have a vertical push here. And that's probably what's going to represent my pushes. If that's the case, I'm probably going to have a horizontal pull here, here, just to match. And I probably would actually go back to horizontal pull here. Okay. Vertical push looks like it's going to get a lot less love, but let's map out the sets. So I've used up 8 sets, and I had 15 minus 8 leaves me about 7 sets to go. I'm probably looking at 4 sets of horizontal push, maybe only 3, and maybe 3 sets of pull. Personally, with upper body, I tend to make these match. I tend not to overdo too much, but in this one phase, or maybe these 2 phases, I do want to overdo the bench press to the pull. It's okay as long as I overdid the pulls to the bench press earlier in my training year. But that is crucial. If you don't do it here and you apply it here, you're heading for disaster over the long term of an athlete. A lot of coaches can get away with it. Why? Because they only have an athlete for a year or 2, they bounce around schools, or the athlete's gone in 4 years and who cares if their body's used up. That's not our approach here. We want people to leave here and be able to live strong, healthy lives, doing whatever they want, and feel good while kicking butt. Okay, so we've laid out our lower body to our upper body. Here we've got quad to vertical push to vertical pull. I could put some more in there, but probably I'm going to give vertical push a little more love here. I might take those sets up to 5, and I might even match it with vertical pull 5, since we're not going to get much other vertical pull during the week. Over here on horizontal push, I might do the same thing. Now I might take the volume down a little bit, because we're later in the week, and then I might match with a horizontal pull. So let's assume I like what I looked at. Okay, I like it, that all makes sense, yup, 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 yup. Good, I like the priority, math it out. All right, hip movements, I have 10. Quad movements, we're just gonna make this a 4. I have 10. All right, that gives me 20 sets of lower body across the week. Upper body, 7, so I've got, horizontal push, let's do this. Horizontal push 4, 7 sets there. Horizontal pull, 3, 6, there. Vertical push, 5, there. Vertical pull, 5, there. Now we look back at this chart, these look even, but we already explained that sequence gives the hip priority, so this is number 1 priority, this is number 2, this is number 3, 1, 2, 3 are all correct. Vertical push would be 4. Now this is interesting. We have horizontal pull with 6 sets and vertical push with 5 sets. This is where you need to do one of 2 things. You either need to change your volume up and add some volume here, which is totally okay, and since my sets on this day only add up to 14 and 10 of them are lower body, I probably could do some more, I probably could do some more vertical pushes here. So that's one way to adjust it. Now it's looking a little bit better. The other thing is to realize that my horizontal pulls that have more sets than vertical pushes, or at least equal sets now that we've adjusted that, they're 3rd in sequence on both days. My vertical pushes are 2nd in sequence. Meaning I'm going to come into these much fresher after only 1 go round of legs. And these other days I'm doing 2 different leg movements and then hitting those horizontal pushes. I'm going to carry over a lot more fatigue on my leg movements. Again, which leg movements you program will decide how much fatigue. But there's a good chance now, especially to balance those sets, that this maths out with that and makes sense. So now it's actually 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And when we look back over here, lowest priority, next lowest priority, next, boom. Does this equal this? It does. So now if this equals this, meaning I had my movement patterns, I drew up this whole giant list, mathed out the sets, I can now design a program with these parameters. So I can actually get to the fun part now. I've done all the homeworky stuff, I've figured it all out, and now's the easy part. Okay, I have my sets laid out. Now I get to have some fun. This is where I figure out how many exercises do I want per movement pattern? Do I want 1? Do I want more than 1? It probably depends on what you're doing. And does an exercise of one type equal an exercise of another? For example, let's just look at hip. On day one, I need a hip dominant movement. So what are some hip dominant movements? I have RDL, I have ballerina RDL, I have the deadlift, I have a power clean. All right, I've got all kinds of variations. I have hamstring curls, glute ham raises, blah, blah, blah. Which of those is a big, multi-joint, barbell-based power movement that's going to be best for an athlete coming up against large external loads? That describes most of football. You might argue some wide receivers, some defensive backs might benefit from less loading, more high-end speed. We can talk about individual differences as we get to it. But that description of football gives you one answer, something along the line of power clean. So it might be power clean, but there might be people who have issues with technique, they have issues with their wrists, there might be challenges there. So your big first movement is probably going to be a power clean, a jump shrug, possibly even a trap bar deadlift jump. Now, trap bar deadlift tends to leave your torso more vertical. It tends to be more quad dominant. I will still program the trap bar deadlift jump in place of a clean if I have an athlete that needs the load and has some issues. The difference between hip and quad is less great than in the upper body movements. Let me just say that again. If I do a bench press, it's chest dominant. If I do a row, it's lat dominant. There's not a lot of carryover, right? Chest, front delt, tricep, pec. So anything here. Rows, lat, rear delt, bicep. I can do one then the other and have little carryover. But there's a lot more carryover in the leg movements. So I'm okay sometimes even using this because that trap bar deadlift jump, because I can get the loading up. I don't have some awkward landing on the jump shrug. We personally find the high pulls to be an abomination of a movement. So that movement might get programmed in there. There's other things I can do. I can do scoop tosses where I come from a low position into a scoop toss. Not a high up quad dominant one, but a hip driven RDL type start to a scoop toss. But looking at all those exercises, we now ask ourselves, who is this athlete again? This is a football player who's largely been in the weight room for high school. They spend time with us, a ton of time in the off season. They have the technical prowess to handle any lift we want. We're assuming they're not too beaten up because our in-season stuff hasn't started yet. They don't play a lot of contact in the summer, unlike some other sports where they play more in the off season. So power clean is probably going to be my first exercise. So I have hip first, I have 5 sets, and I have a couple options here. I can have them run power clean. For 5 straight sets. I could have them run power clean for 3 sets and some other explosive hip movement for 2 sets. What makes more sense in this phase? Well, again, as we get more specific, it makes more sense to have more sets of the same thing. So there's a good chance I'm going to stick with lots of sets of the power clean as my first movement. Again, this is assuming the athlete's mastered it, has technical proficiency, etc. Personally, this is where we're going to go down a little bit of a rabbit hole here. I might not run straight power cleans here. So you're like, wait a minute, you just told me you're going to power clean. We're in a power phase, but really, what's our number one priority? We said endurance is crucial at this step of the game. So my power cleans might actually be more like clusters. So I might have PC clusters. Again, rabbit hole here, don't get bogged down in this. But a power clean cluster, I might go like 2.2.2, and that's 1 set of cleans. And I might run that for maybe 4 sets as opposed to 5. Even 3 sets as opposed to 5, because I've got a lot of work at one time. How does a cluster work? I set up, pull my power clean, I do 2 of those, I drop the bar, I chill out for maybe 30 seconds, or a rest interval that's game type, and then I pull it again, rest interval game type, pull it again, then I take a break, take my full recovery and come back to it. So it's more of an endurance-based power than pure 1 rep max power. This would only occur late in the summer. This would never occur anywhere else in the year done as clusters because it's a power endurance technique. Okay, but let's keep it simple and easy. Let's not go too far down a rabbit hole. Football player Joe shows up. He's got 5 sets of power clean. That doesn't include a few warm-ups to get him there. That's 5 heavy loaded sets, Heavy meaning as heavy as he can go while still eliciting power. Usually that's around 80% of a 1 rep max. I'd rather see an athlete err on a little bit lighter of a side, get more jump, get more explosion, than overload it and slow down some ugly pull. Okay. Athlete Joe finishes his power clean. He moves on to a quad dominant movement. Well, what are some quad dominant movements we can choose from? Again, tons of exercises, but some major variations there. We can go with a squat. We can go with a 1-leg squat. We can go with a lunge. We can go with an RFE, so rear foot elevated lunge. We can go with a squat off a box, blah, 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 blah. This is where you might consider some single leg movement on the quad. Generally, the rules say in a power phase, mostly bilateral, mostly barbell, more about load and speed together. But we have 3 opportunities to hit quad across the week. So I can tell you, squat is going to be our king of quad dominant movements, or possibly even a chest up torso trap bar deadlift here. That's going to happen probably on Wednesday. So one of these other quad days, I'm likely going to take my quad and plan out something that's off of 1 leg, because I'm not going to get a lot of it on my Monday cleans, and I don't think I'm going to get a lot of it on my Friday hip dominant movements either. So this might be an opportunity to do more of a single leg. So what would truly fit in this phase generally is squat, but because it's going to be represented here in a moment, because it's first and I want to have the best workout, I don't want to squat here, because my squat's going to be okay after my cleans, but it's going to be really solid coming off the bat here. So probably I'm going to look at more of a 1-leg movement. So it could be a quad dominant jump. So I'm sitting on a bench using 1 leg and I jump up in the air. It could be a quad dominant jump where I'm mostly quad dominant, single leg, meaning back foot is up in an RFE, I squat down in that RFE, and then I jump. But you've got to make that call. Likely, I'm going to have a heavier loaded movement on that Wednesday, so I'm okay with a different type of movement here or here. Okay. So for the sake of making a decision here, I'm going to go with I don't like the single leg squat on the floor. I don't think it works well. Personally, I think a lunge is too bilateral for what I'm looking for if I really want it. I'm either going to go with a 1-leg squat off a box or an RFE here as my quad dominant movement. So probably as this quad dominant movement today, I'm going to go with a 1-leg squat off a box. And it's going to be a stable box, not a bench ideally, a hard surface, and I'm going to try to load it and get some acceleration up. So I've got 3 sets. Clearly I'm going to need all 3 sets of that exercise. I'm not going to split it up into multiple exercises. All right, last two things. I've got to figure out horizontal push and horizontal pull. So my horizontal push, my horizontal pull, I'm in a power phase. So again, horizontal push, lots of options. Most of them look something like this. But thinking about football, I'm going to be more likely to do a faster explosive bench press than I am to do just a pure medicine ball chest pass or even a drop med ball chest pass. So on this Monday, there's a good chance I'm going to be looking at some sort of barbell bench press. So I'm going to have a bench press. This might be a bench press where it's just intent to be fast, so a 201 tempo, and I'm going to have 4 sets there. Or it might be a bench press with chains on it, or bands on it, or some other way to try to get them to elicit more speed out of the movement. It'll depend on where the athlete's training, what access they have. If this power phase occurred here on campus, we're going to have chains on it, because we have the chains, and it's an easy way to try to demonstrate or discuss speed with them. But since this is going to happen at their home gyms, probably it's just going to be a standard tempo, because I don't know if they're going to have chain or band access, and I don't want them doing something that, asking them to do something they can't actually handle. So I'm going to stick with a bench press there, 4 sets, and now I've got to look at my horizontal pull. I've got 3 sets of horizontal pull here. King of the horizontal pulls in a big classical movement stance, like in a max strength phase, would be the bent over row. But I've power cleaned today. 1-leg squat, not too bad on the back. Bench press, not too bad on the back, but a lot of arch there. I might stick away from a bent over row in that phase, and I might look at something else that might not be so heavily loaded. So I may stay with bent over row there, and maybe I would make this a TRX bodyweight row. Okay. Again, the intent would be to be fast on that row. Down under control, drive it back up quick. So I've laid out my day 1, and now your homework assignment is to come in and lay out using my days, so quad dominant, 4 sets, vertical push, 6 sets, vertical pull, 5 sets, Wednesday. Then Friday, 5 sets hip dominant, 3 sets quad dominant, 3 sets horizontal push, 3 sets horizontal pull. I want you to lay out these days the same way we did this. Once you've done that, we're going to come back, we're going to take this, and we're going to build a program out of this with a little more detail. So for example, my power clean, I need to know, first off, it's a power clean. I need to have some warm-ups in there. And I know I have 5 sets. How low am I going on reps to stay inside that power bracket? All right, assume I'm not doing clusters. I'm probably not going to go below 3 reps. I generally don't like to clean below 3 unless we're really almost considering it an overweight pull, because the loading gets so heavy that the clean slows down, not eliciting enough actual power in the movement. So power clean, I'm going to come in. I'm never going to warm up with more than 6 reps in a power clean. So I'm probably going to come in and warm up with like a 6-4 like that. And then I'm going to have my sets, and they're going to look like this. 5, 4, 3, 3, 3. Each of these sets will be step loaded, so small adjustments upwards. Probably by this set, they'll overload it a little bit. It'll slow down a little bit. Maybe they only get 2. But I've still gotten 4 good, fast, explosive reps, sets of explosive reps in there. Quad dominant. So what else do I need to know, though? I need to know my rest interval, and I need to know my tempo. Well, the tempo for the power clean is really easy. It's going to be X. It's explosive. It's a jump. You just put X. What's my rest interval going to be like? How long does it take to fully recover ATP? Every year I say I'm going to look up the term for this, and I never do. But there's a term half-life. So I have something, and then it uses up half, and then it takes the same amount of time to use up half, same amount of time to use up half. That's how ATP works, but in reverse. So you have no ATP left, or limited ATP left in your muscles, and then it recovers like half, and recovers half, and recovers half, and recovers half. And by about 3 minutes, your ATP is fully recovered with air quotes. If I'm in a team setting, in the gym, I'm never going to have 3 minutes of downtime. The athletes have a really challenging time, especially when they're on campus taking that rest. But if I'm really looking at a scientific program from that pure, like, what would be the right answer, I'm going to have a rest interval of at least 3 minutes here. And we would write that as 180 as in seconds, and possibly even 240 or even greater. Now again, getting an athlete to take that time is an extreme challenge on campus. We hope during their summer packets that they'll do a little more of that, but this is often where we add some filler stuff, and we'll talk about that in a moment. Okay, I'm just going to make a note to come back to filler or rest work. So I move down to quad now. I've got a single leg squat off the box. I've got 3 sets. I want it to be a power-focused exercise, so I'm probably keeping that reps around 5 reps each. That gives me some strength, some power. And again, I'll probably step load those 3 sets, so this set is going to be a little slower, a little bit more on the max strength side of things, and this set's going to be really fast, almost more on the jump side of things, but I don't want my athletes jumping in that position. So tempo looks like what? Probably 2:01, because they're not actually jumping. And the rest interval on that, again, is going to be high. We're going to want at least 2 minutes. Though I'd argue, since I do one leg and then the other leg, I could probably shave the rest down to 90 seconds or 2 minutes and still have full recovery between one leg working and the other. So for this one, we're going to call the rest interval 120 seconds. And it'll be, we'll do right leg, do left leg, take 120 seconds, repeat. Okay. What kind of warm-ups are you going to need for that? You're probably looking at a warm-up set of 10 and maybe another set of 8, just to kind of grease the groove. Body weight for 10, maybe I add a little bit of weight on a vest or chains or dumbbells to that load, and then more weight for the next couple sets. Now I'm about to move on to upper body. Before I get to this point though, I want to start to figure out how long is this workout taking me. So easiest thing is to always call a work set 1 minute. It's not true, but especially in the power phase, let's assume it takes a minute to perform a set. We know in the power phase it will probably be far under that, but it makes the math easy. If you really want to get the exact amount of time for each set, you would take your actual tempo assigned, so 2:01, multiply it by 5. In this case, multiply it by 10 because there's 2 legs. 2 plus 1 plus 0 is 3. 3 times 10, 30. You should be able to get both legs done in 30 seconds. We'll call it a minute to make things simple. So I have 5 sets here, so I know power clean takes 5 minutes to do the work, hypothetically, and 3 minutes in between. 4 times 3 is 12, so I've got 12 minutes there. So we're up to 17 minutes to get through power clean. Quad, I've got 3 times 2 minutes, so that's 6 minutes in between. And then let's say another 1, 2, 3 minutes. That's 9. That brings me up to 26 minutes into my workout. If a workout includes a 10 to 15 minute warm-up, you're looking at about 45 minutes of work left in gym time. So right now, let's say we had 15-minute warm-up. Maybe that's a little long. That leaves us 45 minutes minus 26 minutes. That gives us just under 20 minutes left to go. So I know I have 20 minutes for my horizontal push and my horizontal pull. Again, athletes aren't always big on sitting around. So oftentimes with a push and pull, because there's not a lot of carryover, I'll superset them. We don't have to. You could certainly give them standalone sets of bench press. They might enjoy that greatly. And you might want to do that on a Monday, give them as much recovery as possible to load this day as heavily as possible. But you might also want to superset them. In this example, I'm probably more likely to superset them on Friday, because by that point in the week, they're probably pretty tired. They're not going to get as much loading. I'll get less out of that few extra seconds of break personally. I think I'll get more loading here by breaking those out. But there could be a myriad of reasons, and you have to discuss or consider those options. Okay, 4 sets of horizontal push. Again, why I want to give them a little more rest is more volume today, so we'll give them a little more recovery. So I've got 4 sets of horizontal push, 3 sets of horizontal pull. If I have 20 minutes left, that means I've got 10 minutes for each, or probably 12 minutes to get through my horizontal push, and another 8 minutes to get through my horizontal pull, because again, I don't care so much about the horizontal pull. I've got to get through 4 sets. All right, so I've got my bench press, possibly with chains if I was in the gym, but since I'm home, it's just a bench press. My tempo is at 2:01 because I'm not going to throw the bar. If it was a chest pass, it might be an X, would be an X. What kind of rest interval am I going to take? Well, again, we'd like to have 3 minutes rest interval, so let's write that in to start. I take 180 seconds, and I'm going to run my sets of maybe 6, 5, 4, and 3. This set is going to be too heavy to really be a power exercise. All right, it's probably going to be loaded too heavy, it's going to be slow. But again, 1 set on the strength side, I'm okay with that. These other sets are going to give me more of my speed side of power. This is more of the strength side. So this would be a strength speed set, and these would be speed strength sets. So I've got my 4 sets, I've got my loading. I'm probably going to have a warm-up of at least 10 and 8, possibly even another set in there depending on the athlete and the loads they're going to use. If I do those sets and I take a 3-minute break, 3, 6, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13 minutes, 13 minutes is pretty good. So I've added 13 minutes to that total, because again, I've taken 3 minutes in between, 3, 6, 9, and I've done 4 minutes of work, 13. That leaves me about 7 minutes left for my horizontal pull, not 8, but that's totally okay. I'm going to have my, whatever my horizontal pull is, it's my TRX bodyweight row. And I may overweight this, not just body weight. Here I probably only need 1 warm-up set, because I'm probably not chasing power in the pull as much as I am in the push. There are positions on the line where you might be battling more and looking for a little more pull, but generally football is going to be a push-dominant sport. So I'm less concerned with true recovery and power output here. So again, 2:01 tempo. Probably going to try to drop the rest down to about 120 seconds between the sets. I've got 3 sets, and we're probably looking at 8, because I'm coming off my warm-up of maybe 10 body weight. I'll do an 8, a 6, and then I might do another 6 or drop it down to a 4 depending. Only challenge really with a TRX row, dropping it into 6s and 4s, depending on the athlete. A big lineman, not a challenge. This set might even be impossible without angling up. But for a skinnier, lighter athlete, you got to put a lot of weight on your chest. If you don't have a vest, if you don't have a partner to put a plate on you, it becomes harder to perform those reps. So something to consider. Let's math it out again. So I've got 2 minutes here, 2 minutes here, because again, this is my least priority, so I don't care if the rest interval is so high. That's 4 minutes, 5, 6, 7 minutes. Add 7 to that, we're in pretty good shape. So we've got 20 plus 26, we're about 46 minutes. That did not include warm-up time, but it did include 15 minutes of dynamic warm-up at the beginning. So let me say that again more clearly. That did not include my warm-up sets, but it did include my dynamic warm-up. So I'm still going to be around an hour in the gym. That's totally acceptable. I'm not there an hour and a half. I'm not there all day. That works out just fine. Okay, so this is my day 1, my day A. I'd like you to build day B and day C, or my Wednesday and Friday, doing the same thing. I want you to come up with the exercises first by movement pattern Is it one? Is it multiple? Maybe some of these are multiple. Maybe they're all one. Maybe some of these are multiple, maybe not. Then I want you to start to lay out the exercises, the sets, the specific reps. Sorry, given the amount of total sets, but depending on one exercise or two, lay out the sets, the specific reps for them, the rest interval for them, and the tempo, and assign all those things out. Come up with a reason for each thing you did. One more point. I talked about getting athletes to sit still in the weight room. There's two reasons we don't like this. One, the average athlete doesn't really like to sit down for 3 minutes. The bigger problem is that if you can get them to sit down for 3 minutes, we start jawing, we're on our cell phone, we're bored, we're looking around. Recovery is crucial. So we need to get 3 minutes maybe between sets of power clean, or 3 minutes between a heavy squat. So what do we do in that 3 minutes? We've got a couple of good options there. I can tell you what I personally do, and I can tell you what other people do, and all are fine. So you can assign what I call filler work. So this is where I put neck. Depending on a power clean, it might be less true, but oftentimes I might put some kind of grip. You can put rolling or massage work. You could put stretching or flexibility work. Or you could put some sort of balance work or any other category that doesn't take away from the movement they're doing. So you might have a basketball player doing some ankle stability stuff on one leg, dribbling a ball, standing with their eyes closed, something like that. You could do a similar drill for football. You might have football doing neck. I'm still not 100% convinced that all the neck work in the world is really going to reduce concussions to the point we'd like, but it's easy money. It doesn't hurt anything for sure, and it may help, and it's great filler work. So I pull my power clean at 5, I put the bar down, I go over, I do some neck work. Maybe I don't do grippers if I'm worried about my grip on the power clean, though I'm probably not worried nearly as much as I would be on a deadlift. So then maybe I grab a foam roller and do a little massage, or I stand on a leg and do some balance, or maybe I even do just like a light set of band pull-aparts to try to activate some of those muscles in my upper back. There's stuff I can do that will have almost no negative impact on that 3-minute recovery, but allow the athletes to stay engaged, moving, doing things, and allow us to get a few more sets of stuff that I don't really count toward the overall sets in a workout. All right. So finish up the power exercise, and then we'll start looking at what we would do in a stability control phase, and you'll see very quickly it looks nothing like this.